Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to Misinformation in Science and Society. Here to listen, not to judge. I'm Annie, and today with us we have Maddy Jalbert, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Washington who studies misinformation in the context of social and cognitive psychology.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Um, so let's get started. So I'm Annie. I'm a rising junior in high school in Illinois, and I started this project because I noticed a lot of like misinformation, especially during COVID and like on like social media. And so yeah, could you please like introduce yourself and like what do you do mainly?
Yeah, hi, my name is Maddy Jalbert. I am a postdoctoral scholar at the Center for an Informed Public at the University of Washington. I have my nice like UW background here. I have a background in social and cognitive psychology, so I have a PhD in social psychology and also have worked in a cognitive psychology lab. And I am interested in what makes people believe things are true and how people use feelings to guide their judgment and decision making. I'm also interested some in memory. And so how my very initial interest in psychology was actually in false memory. And so being interested in how people can come to form full false memories. And I joined a lab with a professor who had studied this, and early on, I did some work with collaborative remembering about how remembering with others may change your memories of the past. And so I have some past interest in that. And also more currently, I look a lot at what makes people believe things are true. How do we correct misinformation? Why does misinformation spread? Why do we share it? But on a level of the individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's like kind of what you're interested in. So like what's your favorite like part of doing what you do?
Um, My favorite part is the people that I get to work with. I get to go into my job and go to talks where I hear other people present their work. I get to work with a lot of really smart people who are very social justice oriented and very focused on how do we make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it's nice to be around those people when things are not going so well in the world. I in my studies, what I really like in the work I do is that I run experiments and I do controlled experiments where you manipulate one thing and then you test how that affects people's responses. And I
Mm-hmm.
really like having this very controlled environment and being able to test those very specific things. And so I have enjoyment out of that, out of being able to do these tests. So there's that was multiple things, but
Yeah, that's very interesting. So why do you think that truth is like so important?
mm, I might you're implying that I think truth is important.
Oh.
I have like a bit of a different, I think, I'm interested in general in what makes people believe things are true and both
Mhm.
true and false information, but I'm particularly interested in kind of the practical um, implications that has. So I'm less concerned about if people believe something is true or that's not technically true, but I'm more concerned in how people then use that information in their lives. And so you can imagine situations like if you're reading celebrity gossip, reading something false and believing it may not have a bad outcome. And in fact, like gossiping about false information might like bring you closer to others and help you form social bonds. And so in that case, belief in that information is not necessarily having a negative consequence. But if
Mhm.
people are believing health misinformation or um, they are believing pieces of misinformation that then cause them harm through the decisions that they make or have these kind of broader societal impacts, then that is concerning. And so I think that the truth is important because people use that information in their daily lives and you want people to make be making decisions that are beneficial to them and to society.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that like misinformation that can cause people to like um do things that cause that are like lead to like negative consequences will be like the worst type of misinformation?
Um, yes, and I think there's both personal consequences and there's also more broader societal consequences in terms
Mm-hmm.
of misinformation itself can make people make a bad decision. So if you're concerned about vaccines causing harm because of misinformation you saw and you don't get vaccinated and you get sick or other people get sick, that would be a negative harm. There's
Mm-hmm.
also misinformation that can just undermine trust in systems. So if you are getting misinformation about the election and that undermines trust in the electoral process and in democracy, that's also a
Mm-hmm.
concern. So I would say yes, that's the misinformation that I think is most problematic.
I see. So I read like the chapter that you sent me. So and I found it like really interesting. So what do you think what was like what was your like biggest surprise when you like put it together, like you found the studies um or and like put the chapter together, like any like statistics or like ideas that you found like surprising or like interesting?
Yeah, I'll talk about a specific study and a study that was talked about in there, which was work that I had done early on in my graduate career. Was I ran a study. I wanted to study the truth effect, which is this finding that merely repeating information makes it seem more true. And
Mm-hmm.
people have studied this effect for a long time. There's a lot of studies that have done this. And so, but I had never done any of these studies before. I was a new grad student. And so I went and I ran one of these studies where I went and I got a bunch of trivia claims that I pulled together, and some of them were true and some of them were false. And then I had it so that people were seeing some of these claims and not others. And then they were rating both the claims they had seen before and also new claims. And this is like a pretty typical design. And when I looked at my results, I found that the size of the truth effect, the impact of repetition, was over twice as large as what other people were typically getting. And so I was like, wow, I made a big mistake somewhere. Like this, I messed up. Like, why am I getting such a big effect of repetition on belief?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that when I had ran my study, I had done something different than what other people had done, and that I didn't give people a warning that they would be seeing some false information. And
Mm-hmm.
so built into these studies was this warning that, hey, you're going to see some false information or things that were drawing attention to truth. And I didn't do that. And we found when I then ran it with that, then that made that half the size of the truth effect. So the only thing we did was tell people, hey, some of the information is false, and reduce the impact of repetition by over half by having that one sentence in the start of the study. And so to me, like that something so small as that drawing people's attention to truth can have such a big impact um, was a surprising finding. And also just how large the impact of repetition can be. That repeating information, even when people know the information is false, can make it
Mm-hmm.
seem more true, is very counterintuitive, but that it can have that effect is really interesting to me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So it's like we like assume what we read is like true, and but then like if you see that some of it might be false, then you will like be more careful, I guess. Um
Mhm.
yeah, um so what do you think about the invention of technology and its like impact on misinformation?
Yeah, I think it's technology makes things really hard. And if you didn't have technology, you would get most of your information from the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you would look at what other people that I know and trust believing. We oftentimes look to what other people believe to decide what we believe, and you would have a much smaller information environment. And
Mm-hmm.
now you're online, and now you get to know what people across the globe believe, and also um, you can see this consensus information for how many people are liking things, how many people are sharing things, and
Mm-hmm.
that information can be skewed. So it doesn't, we're not good at interpreting that type of information. And so I think technology has both allowed misinformation to spread more broadly, but it also has given us this information environment where we can't just look to like what do our small group of friends and relatives and trusted others believe. Now we're like, what does the whole world believe? And it's,
Mm,
you're not getting information that necessarily maps onto the reality. And so it also, in that way, is concerning.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so what would you say is like one thing that like uh we can do to like avoid or like tackle misinformation, like the most important thing we can do?
The most important thing, I'm going to give you two things because I can't just do
Okay.
one.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think personally, when you are going to share information, one of the
Hmm.
most important things to do is first consider, is it true? Just ask yourself that. Oftentimes we assume information's true and we may not even like question it before we share. So as an individual, when you're reading information that has the potential to be untrue, or before you share it, just asking yourself, how do I know this is true?
Hmm.
Um, and then on the other side of things, when you are talking to other people or trying to share quality information, um, I would simply say make the truth as easy to understand as possible and share that you share what you believe, like share that you believe credible information. It's really hard to go out and change someone's mind, but just saying, hey, I believe this, this is what other people believe, and sharing the truth in simple, easy to understand um, terms is a good step, because the more people do that, the more consensus it builds and the more exposure to the true information. That repetition can increase belief. And so you don't always have to fight with someone about correcting misinformation. It's really, really difficult to change someone's mind. And so I would kind of put out that advice of, if you want to do something, but not have that kind of confrontation. Um,
Yeah, I see, I see. So I think that would be all my questions about misinformation. Just for fun, like, do you have a role model? If so, like who?
yeah, I had mentioned before my work when I first got interested with the professor who studies false memories. He
Mhm.
was my advisor undergrad, Ira Hyman, and I started working with him when I was a sophomore in college. And just in terms of a role model, in terms of mentors,
Mhm.
there's the academic piece, but there's also the how you care about students and how do you set them up for success and how do you be a mentor. And he's been really a role model to me. And he helped me get the job I currently have as a postdoc. Like, he still sends me job opportunities. We're still working together. But watching the way that he helps students do whatever the next steps that they want to do and help them succeed. That's he to me has been a big mentor and how I would like to be as a academic and as a mentor. So Ira Hyman, shout out.
Yeah, very sweet. Um, so yeah, that would be it. So just to close this out, do you have any advice, like general advice for people, especially like teens? It can be about like information or just anything.
Yeah, some general advice. Um, I'll I'll give advice kind of about the research aspect, in terms of like, if you're interested in doing work around misinformation or research or becoming more involved,
Mm.
um, I highly recommend that people do what Annie's doing, which is just reach out to people and ask them questions. I'm very impressed that I, as a high school, would never reach out to like experts or who I can these different people.
Mhm.
Academics love to talk, researchers love to talk, graduate students like to talk. If you're interested in going into a research area, no matter what it is, I highly recommend you reach out to the people who are doing the work and see if they'll chat to you about it and what it's like. Especially grad students are usually will have the time and willingness to do that.
Uh-huh.
And I highly recommend, if you can, be involved in the research and join a lab and actually do the work. You can be a research assistant oftentimes, which is like volunteer work or potentially paid work, but typically you would come and volunteer in the
Mhm.
lab and see what people are doing. And so I would highly recommend, if you're interested in something, actually talking to the people doing the work and seeing if there's a way you can do it. And
Mhm.
that'll help you figure out whether or not you actually want to do it.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to do neuroscience and joined a neuroscience lab where I worked with mice for a summer. And that made me
Mhm.
realize that I did not want to do that. But that's also very important information. And so I
Mhm.
would give that advice for teens trying to figure out what they are interested in and what they want to do. See how you can be involved.
Alright, yeah, thank you for those. And just thank you for being here. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I think what you're doing is fantastic
thank
and
you.
made me very excited to see. Yeah,
Thank you so much. Bye, have a great rest of your day.
you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.